Hi friends, and welcome to the Healthy Beyond 40 show. I'm Michelle, mama 4 and military wife, and I'm passionate about helping women get healthy from the inside out so they can feel better and live their best life. Do you feel like you're struggling to lose weight and get in shape? If you're ready to develop healthier habits, exercise consistently, and lose weight sustainably, then you're in the right place. I combine my expertise from my doctorate in physical therapy to my experience as a health coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher to bring you actionable steps for a healthy lifestyle. No magic pill here, so lace up those shoes and get moving. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about how to say no to sugar so that we can be healthy and lose weight. I find that this is probably one of the most common problems that I hear from women and my clients. So many women just feel that pressure to eat just because it's there or because they don't want to upset someone and they're not actually hungry. They don't need it. And especially when it comes to sugar, we get stuck in that cycle of wanting more and more sugar. So I'm hoping that this episode will give you guys ways to be confident in saying no when it's not something that you need without the guilt and without feeling like you're missing out. So first, I'm going to go over some reasons why people commonly struggle to say no to sugar and just that extra food that we don't need. So one of the first things is just that habit and conditioning. So many of us are just used to this happening and then we eat this. Like I have dinner, then I have a dessert. Or I've had a long week of work and I get this. Or when I go to my mom's house, I'm going to have pasta and treats. And we just have these different habits that we're used to. We've been conditioned. And then a lot of times we're also conditioned to use sugar for comfort. So we're feeling sad, stressed, upset. We go to that sugar for comfort. We also go to it for a reward. So if we've had a hard week or we're working hard, we feel like we should reward ourselves with sugar. And sometimes we also have that social connection. So when we're doing things with other and there's food and there's sugar and all these things around, we're just conditioned that we eat sugar or sweets or food that we don't need because we're in that social setting. And sometimes it can be really hard to not accept food and feel like we're not being rude. But you guys can do this. We can say no, and I'll sort of later in this episode give some ways to do that. But we worry about that social pressure of fitting in and being polite, and we're sacrificing our health in the meantime. And so we also have that emotional eating, reaching for sweets like I mentioned earlier out of boredom, stress, habit, rather than actual hunger. And when we're hungry, we don't want to reach for sweets. But we go for those sweets and the higher quick carb food, like even bread, chips, those things turn into glucose in our bloodstream very quickly. So even though it may not be like something high in added sugar, those things still act like sugar. And those are the things that we're typically going to go for when we are feeling that stressed or boredom. Okay, so those are some things to think about. And I want you to think for yourself. Why do you struggle to say no to sugar, sweets, extra food? Is it that habit? Is that conditioning? That social pressure and that fear of like missing out? Or is it that emotional eating? Or maybe it's something else. So we have to know what's going on to be able to break it down and change that pattern in us. And it can be different for everyone. That's why there's not like a one answer, a specific diet that's going to fix everybody's problems. We really have to look into ourselves and individualize things and see what's going on in us. We all come from different backgrounds. We have different hurts, different pains. We've grew up in different ways, how to handle our emotions. And so that's what we have to work from. And the other thing when we're talking about sugar is a lot of times when we're having sugar, it makes us crave more. And so this isn't just about willpower. This is what goes on in us biologically. There's actually studies where rats were choosing sugar over like hard drugs, like I think it was cocaine, because sugar is so addictive. So sometimes we have to be very black and white, as in, I'm not going to eat sugar. So whenever I talk about sugar, I want you to think, what type of person are you and what do you need right now? Are you able to have a little bit of sugar intentionally and be able to turn sugar down and not get stuck in that spiral? Some people can do that. Now, I find a lot of people who are eating sugar and really stuck in those sugar cravings do better to have a very black and white time period, as in, I am not going to have sugar, sweets. You have to really define what that is for you. It's very black and white, and it doesn't mean it has to be forever, but it needs to be for a period of like month, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, whatever that is for you, to break down those cravings biologically in your body. So that time period can be different for different people because you want to then be able to eat sugar intentionally. So if you do a period where you have that boundary and it's very intentional, as I'm not having sugar, then you might at a later time start eating sugar, but you're able to do it from a place where you don't have those strong cravings, where you have control around sugar, where you can be very intentionally about what, when, and how you eat it. So this is something I work a lot on with my clients, is how to handle these urges and cravings. So a craving is really just an urge. The same thing with like picking up our phone too many times or checking our email or social media. We have these urges or cravings, and we can work through that. So that's not something that you have to stay stuck in. But what happens is when you have an urge or craving, whether that's for food or looking at social media, and you give into that urge or craving each time, you're making that loop stronger and stronger in your brain. So it's harder and harder to break down because that's that pathway that's built up. But if you're ready, this is something that you can start to break down. And I give my clients tools to do this. And also, when we eat and we're not hungry, we're really confusing our body. We have so much food around us that we should be able to eat from our body's hunger cues most of the time. For example, today, I was like not hungry for lunch and ate it way later than I normally do. But I'm like, I am just not hungry. And I did have that flexibility in my schedule where I could do that. We may not always have that. But I was able to listen to my body. And then I might have a day where I am like super hungry for lunch by 10:30. I'm going to make sure I get my water and my protein, those other things. But we want to listen to our body and respect it because there is an abundant amount of food around us. We don't have to store up food or store on extra fat because there might be a famine. So we don't want to confuse our body and eat when we're not hungry most of the time. That's definitely not like 100% of the time. There are times when I know I'm not going to be able to eat a meal when I normally would, and I might eat a little early. Okay, I'm going to take a little break here because I know most of us try to eat healthy, but even with the best intentions, it's easy to miss out on some really important nutrients. I take pretty much every day is my green juice that I love. And I love this one more than others because it has adaptogens like ashwagandha, which helps with stress. As I'm recording this, we recently moved in January, but it is still an adjustment that is going on. So I am making that one of my priorities to take because I want to help my body at a cellular level. And using the greens and these adaptogen herbs can really help that. I like to mix mine with unsweetened almond milk and some protein powder in the morning. And it really just helps me to start my day good and to start my day with that intention. And for that green juice, if you use the code HEALTHY20, you're going to save 20% off your order. If you do like their subscription, you save even more. And you can use that code HEALTHY20 anytime you guys order from Organifi. All right, so there's going to be links down below for all of that. Okay, so next I want to go over some very practical tips on how to say no without it feeling awkward or deprived. But also know that this is going to come from a confidence within you. So sometimes you have to work on that first. That confidence in you and what is best for you and what you need. So one thing is just tell people ahead of time. And especially if your intention is very clear, I am not eating sugar for a month, 2 months, whatever it is, very clear. Tell people ahead of time. Give them that heads up. Now they may or may not follow through, but you at least know that you told them ahead of time. It's going to be up to you to follow through and to really set that boundary. So here are some ideas of things to say to people. So if you struggle with this, after I go through these, pause the podcast and write down some ways that you can politely say no that sound fitting towards you. And one general idea, whenever you're telling someone no or giving them some feedback or anything like that, is to do sort of a compliment sandwich. So you might want to compliment them on something like, oh, I appreciate you taking that time to think of me. And then you're going to put the middle of the sandwich is what you want them to know. But I'm not eating sugar right now. And then you might end with one more compliment. So you can use something like that, but we want to think of where that person is coming from so we can respond more personally. Like maybe someone did take some time, or maybe they're just trying to show that they love you. So you could say, I know that you love me and you love sharing food with me, but right now I'm just not eating sugar. It's not good for me. Or maybe you can say something like, I'm trying to listen to my body more, and so I'm going to pass for now because I don't need it. Or you could say the compliment, that looks amazing, but I'm just not hungry right now. You can keep it simple. You can say, no thanks, I'm good right now. And I know some people can be more pushy than others, and that's where we have that confidence in ourselves. We're very clear and we've practiced what we're going to say ahead of time. Just like with anything, if we practice ahead of time, we get that neural network going and we're building that up in our brain. Because sometimes saying new things or in a different way, our brain is sort of fumbling and having to think harder how to do that. So if we practice ahead of time, it helps to do that. You also need to really have a game plan in place. So if you know you're going to be put in a situation, create that game plan ahead of time. Be very intentional. Make sure that you are eating balanced meals and you're not getting where you sort of bottom out and are grabbing whatever you want. And another big piece here is to really reframe your mindset. So when you are not saying no to people, like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What's going on? You have to break that down. Is it a feeling of like missing out? So how can you flip that and reframe that thought? That you're not really missing out. That I get to be here with these people. That I'm actually gaining control in my life and I'm going to have more energy and feel better. Think about what you're getting instead. So if we're not having that cookie or that donut, what are we getting instead? We're taking care of our body. We're feeling better. Maybe we're going to lose that weight. Maybe some pain is going to decrease because we lose weight. Maybe our blood pressure is going to come down. Or maybe it's just we're going to feel better. So think about what you're getting instead. And remember that saying no is a form of caring for yourself. It's not punishment, especially when we don't need it or we know that sugar just isn't good for our body. We're actually caring for ourselves. Because sometimes it feels like we're punishing or we're saying no, but it's actually loving and kind and taking care of ourselves. So I get it. Saying no to sugar and breaking old habits isn't just about willpower. It's really helpful to have the right tools, the support, and a plan that works for you, and tools and plans that actually you can stick with. That's why diets fail us so often. And that's exactly what I do in coaching with my clients. And I fully customize everything to you, your schedule, your goals, your struggles, because there's not a one size fits all. In coaching, I work on everything from very practical things like easy protein ideas and meal planning to working on those bigger mindset shifts that really change things, to working on that emotional eating and managing stress in our lives and our priorities. Because if we're letting stress in our life build up or we're not prioritizing the right thing, and we're not prioritizing our health, then that's what we need to start on. So sometimes it's not even working on the food or the exercise. It's these other things in our life that are affecting us taking care of our health. So whatever you need, we're going to figure it out together. And we'll always go from a place where we have real doable steps that fit into your life. So no guilt, no overwhelm, just steady progress. So if that sounds like what you need, check the link down below. You can set up a free call with me. It can be video or just chatting on the telephone, whatever you're comfortable with. And I always offer a 10% discount to teachers, frontline workers, military. So if that's you, just make sure to mention it on that call. All right, so let's keep going here. Another piece I want to talk about when it comes to saying no is really setting boundaries. So boundaries with other people, especially if they are over pushy with food, like those food pushers. You have to know what your boundary is and you have to stick with it. Because it's like a little kid. If we let them have a little bit of something, they're just going to like keep coming back for more, and they're going to keep asking and asking and asking. One of my kids is almost a teenager and still like this. Some people are just like very persistent. I'm sure it helps them with certain things in life. But when it comes to pushing somebody's boundary, they might keep pushing and pushing. So you really have to have that strong boundary and you have to stick with it. Because if you give in, they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until they break you down. And people may not even do this to be mean or anything like that. But that's where we can work on creating those safe boundaries for us. And also think about boundaries when it comes to food. So even if other people aren't involved, what's your boundaries with food? Are you going to eat till you're stuffed? How much sugar do you want in your life? How much alcohol do you want in your life? How many fruits and vegetables do you want in your life? And you can set these boundaries with food too, with yourself. Always start in a small, doable way. And I also want you to think about finding non-food ways to enjoy social events. So often it just seems all centered around the food. And maybe that's the way you've always done it, but it doesn't have to be that way. Because when you start to shift your mindset, that's when you can start to enjoy the other things in the social events and take a different look at it. And saying no gets easier with practice, as with anything. Think of it as like a muscle you have to build up. So the more you say no when it's a no for you, like you don't want it, you're not hungry, it's not good for your body right now, the more you say no, the easier that gets. And you want to do this for your future self. So you probably want to get to some other point. Maybe that's losing weight, getting in shape, getting stronger. So what do you need to do now to get to that future self? Does that person who has lost 20 pounds, do they say no when they're offered treats when they don't want it? Does that person have some boundaries around food? Does that person feel in control around food? So we need to start thinking about that future self and acting for that person. So I want you guys to pay attention how you feel and choose what truly serves your body and will nourish you and make you healthy. No one else is going to take care of you. No one else is going to make you eat a salad or carrots and say no to a donut. But that is 100% up to you. And you may have some things to work through to get there, but you can do that. Because only you can take care of you. And you deserve to be taken care of and nourished. So friends, let's do this together. And if you guys are on Facebook, make sure to check out my Healthy Beyond 40 Facebook group and share in there what's going on. I love when people post and share their intentions, their meals, their questions, whatever it is. All right, friends, I hope that you guys have a great week and just reach out if you need extra support.